Welcome to the Elle Bee Show. I'm your host, Elle Bee. So, most of the things that you're about to hear are my opinion. But guess what? We sprinkled in some facts because we're what? Educated bees over here in this hive. Don't forget to check out the website for our resources so you can do some additional research on your own. Now, prepare to be stung, but the solve is not included. So, continuing on with the conversation of colorism as it relates to family, I am going to take this personal point of privilege, since this is the Elle Bee Show and I am Elle Bee, to talk about my family. Now, I am very aware of my family lineage because I'm the person in my family that asks all the questions and I want to know all the deets. Like all the time. And if people need to know stuff, I'm typically the person that's like, oh, go ask her because they know I know. So I do come from a very large family. My grandparents and great-grandparents hail from the states of Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama. My great-grandmother, one of them, was one of 9 children. My grandparents, my grandfather on my mom's side was one of 5. My grandmother on my mom's side was one of 8. My grandmother on my dad's side was one of 11. And my grandfather on my dad's side was one of 17. So, needless to say, I have a very huge family. Now, my great-grandmother, may she rest, she had 8 children, which is my mom's mom. Okay, following? Okay, pay attention because it's a lot. She was what would be considered to be an octoroon. She was Choctaw, Black, and Irish. She had bright red hair. She was very light skinned. Think Maya Rudolph-ish. And she had freckles. She was a natural redhead that she didn't always like, and was somewhat embarrassed by that. Now, she used to tell me stories about how when she was a kid, of how she was treated because she did look a lot different from some of her brothers and sisters. Given that her father was unalived in deep Georgia and her and her mother ran away to Ohio when she was all but 2 years old, she didn't really have a memory of her father, which is understandable. Her mother got remarried, and they went on to have, 8 other children. So I said she was one of 8, and I correcting, she was one of 9. She was the oldest of 9. But she was the only child to her mother and father. Her mother got remarried and had 8 other children. So there's that. Now, because she was a bright redhead, and all of her brothers and sisters, none of them really looked like her. The closest one was the oldest boy, and he was several shades darker than her, but he was still considered what you would say light. He was more caramely complected, I would say. But she used to tell me this story when she was a little girl of this store that they used to go to, and she always wore her hat because they will always be like, where did you get the one with the red hair? She was embarrassed. She didn't know that there wasn't anything wrong with that. She just knew that she looked different from her brothers and sisters. She would wear her hat all the way until she got home. She was always treated like she thought she was better than everybody else when she never felt that she was better than everybody else. But because she was so very close to being white, she got treated in a certain way. Now, of her children, she had 4 girls and 4 boys. My grandmother is the second oldest. Of my grandmother and her siblings, there are 3 of them that are still living. Now, my grandmother is also very, very fair, very light, with stringy straight hair and freckles. My great grandmother told me one time that she married the darkest man that she could find because she wanted to make sure that her children had some color. Now, that was a common theme back then for a lot of lighter skinned women, that they wanted to marry a darker skinned man, and vice versa. A lot of lighter skinned men wanted to marry darker skinned women because they wanted their children to have some color, for the most part. There was occasions where, light would marry light, so to speak. Of my grandmother and her brothers and sisters, there is a range of colors, from very dark to very light, or very light to very dark, depends on how you look at it. And there wasn't an order of their birth. That's just the way that it is. My grandmother, light skin, stringy hair, freckles. My mother, light skin, stringy hair, freckles. My father is a darker chocolatey man. And then you have me, milk chocolatey. My mother's brothers and sisters goes from very light to dark in order. My mom's older sister is the only one that doesn't have freckles. My mom's youngest sister has freckles. She is very chocolate. She's darker than me, and you can see the freckles clear as day on her face. Plain as day. But her children, her husband is a milk chocolatey man, I like to say. Her children are very light. So they look like our great-grandmother. It's like their parents doesn't even look like their parents is their parents if we were going just on complexion alone. So it doesn't really matter what you think or how you think somebody is going to turn out, because they turn out how they turn out, because there's so much of the mixing within your family tree. Now, when I was a kid, I have an aunt on my dad's side that I look exactly like. Like I am her twin. I look more like her than her own daughter does. Before she had her daughter, everybody thought that I was her daughter. In the summertime, she would come and get me. She would always take me back to school shopping, all that good jazz. And people would be like, "Where's your mom?" And I'm like, "My mom is in Detroit." "Well, who is that lady I saw you with?" I'm like, "That's my aunt." They'd be like, "No, that's your mom." "No, that is my aunt." So you really can't help your own family genetics. My grandmother, my aunt told me this story, one of her sisters, that my grandma was like super smart and she wanted to go to college. But given the fact that she was born in 1932 and she graduated from high school when she was 16, because she's a smart person, she could not go to college because they lived in Detroit. Her father said, "I am not sending my 16-year-old daughter down south," because that was the only place where she could go to school to get a college education. Not at 16 years old. Even though we had family down south, even though that's where they were from was down south, he was not having it. So she didn't go to college. She instead started working. And then my grandparents got married when my grandma was 18 and my grandpa was going on. Well, sorry, she was 17. My grandpa was 19. But my aunt told me this story that when my grandma was in high school, she used to get made fun of a lot because she was very light and she could pass for white. And that was something that she hated. That was something that her mother hated, that they could pass for white. She came home one day and she washed her face so hard because she was trying to get rid of her freckles that she started bleeding from her face. Just take that in for a moment. Because that is what we would do to each other. Oh, you light, you trying to be white, you think you better than everybody else. You're not no better than me and this is that or whatever. Mind you, these were things coming from her peers. And at the time, she didn't have the confidence in herself to say, I'm good just the way that I am. So she tried to physically change her features, thinking that she could wash away her freckles just so she could be considered to be normal, to be like everybody else. When she didn't understand the gift that she was holding and her talent. So she didn't know the power that she possessed. Like, my grandma is extremely smart and she's very talented. She's an amazing piano player. She sings soprano and she's the mother of 5 kids. Like, she had 5 babies in a 10-year time period. She did that. She has 9 grandchildren and I think she's up to like 11, 12, 13 great grands at this point. I can't keep track because everybody keep having babies, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you don't necessarily know the talents or the skills that you possess because you listen to the opinions of other people. Now, take her children, which would be my mother and her siblings. My aunt, who is the oldest, it's 5 of them total. My aunt, who is the oldest, I want to say is about maybe the complexion of the lady that plays Queen Charlotte on Bridgerton, which I know you know who that is because Bridgerton is everywhere. So don't act like you don't know. If you don't, then go look it up. That's how the complexion, like my aunt is that complexion. The youngest is about the complexion of, I would say probably Whoopi Goldberg. So that's a range in one family amongst siblings. And my aunt has freckles. And the youngest one has freckles. The oldest one does not. But everybody else got the freckles. My mom looks just like my grandmother, who looks just like my great-grandmother. Spitting image. All 3 of them. All light, all with freckles, all with very fine hair. Me, on the other hand, because I got chocolate daddy, I got this hair, which is locked. But before, my hair was locked, it was like 4C hair, whatever. But I don't have no freckles. I kind of wish I did because, I think freckles are amazing and they look great, like on everybody. But there are still issues within families because there's such a wide range of the different colors. Like, some people thought, my mom, who is also a very smart woman, would be like, oh, she thinks she's better than everybody. My mom is a bit of a nerd. It's no secret around our family. Everybody knows my mother is a nerd. She's a proud nerd, okay? Don't let her fool you. My mom knows she's a nerd. Hey, Mom, if you're watching. She's a nerd. But she was the first person in our family that graduated from college. She then inspired other people in our family to go to college because they saw that she could do it. She is one of the older ones on the cousins scale. So she decided to do that. Now, when you think about colorism within the different families, when I think about colorism within my family, it's not something that I really noticed outright when I was a kid because our family is our family. And it's always been like that. Nothing comes before your family. That was one of the lessons that I was taught as a child. Your family comes first. Your family is most important. Always take care of the family. Because if you don't have your family, you don't have anything, basically. So we never had those type of issues to where it was noticeable for me. Now, there were comparisons of, cousins, and just like, this one's prettier than that one, this one's smarter than that one, those types of things. But those were always coming from outside sources. It was never something that came from within the family. And of my cousins, of my generation, when I say we got the lightest of the light and the darkest of the dark, it goes the full gamut. We have cousins with different color eyes, hazel eyes, blue eyes, green eyes, straight hair, afro, locks, whatever. Name it, we got it. But we never had that division amongst ourselves. It was always outside forces that try to bring that into our house, and we never let it. So that's one thing that I'm blessed to say, that was a part of my life and my family, that we never had those type of issues. So shout out to my grandparents and great-grandparents for making sure that, we knew each other, we protected each other, and we loved each other. Because we do. My family know I'd do anything for them. Run up on them and see what happened. You will see the Detroit girl come on out. She'll be ready to go. Okay? Don't play with us. So, colorism can be an issue for some. Like, on my dad's side, everybody is chocolate. And I mean chocolate. It's like 2 light-skinned people in the whole family. It's not funny, but it is kind of funny when I think about it. It's just like, there is no light-skinned people on my dad's side. Everybody is chocolate. And I don't know if that's because, they are from Mississippi, but everybody was a chocolate baby, including me. We're all chocolate. No light-skinned babies on that side. But my mom's side is more diverse because of our lineage. So we know we're part Irish, we know we're part Choctaw, and we know we're part Black. So you see both sides. You see all sides. So family is what's important. Family is what's key. And you have to make sure that you always are protecting your family. So with that being said, we're going to leave you with this food for thought for today. Your family is blood. You don't get to make the rules, but we can control how we treat each other as a nucleus. At the end of the day, I was taught, like most Black people were taught, your family is all you got. If you don't got your family, you don't have nothing. So be kind to each other. Love on your family, treat them with respect, give respect, and everything will be A-OK. So come back next week, because we got more to talk about. Thanks for tuning in to the Elle Bee Show. Make sure you share, subscribe, and sound off. I hope you got some. Who knew it could feel so good?